Hello, Beth Kennedy here. I'm going to talk to you about the very first chapter of this course, which is called Introduction to Supply Chain Management. I want to let you know that watching these lectures is probably the easiest way for you to consume this content. I'm going to be teaching this to you with as many real-world examples as I could possibly come up with to make this make sense to you. This is going to be a little bit like learning a new language, and so I want you to have confidence that if you can watch these 15 or 20-minute lectures that I've recorded for every chapter and do the rest of the work, you'll be able to come out of this class with a good grade. I know that's what most of you are concerned with, so I want to make sure that we have a good level set on that. Let's talk about what supply chain management is. After you take this class, you should be able to understand what a supply chain is, talk about supply chain management. You should be able to understand what regional, global supply chain activities are, especially around logistics. Some little history, I'm not going to focus on that a lot because I don't think it's anything that's going to help you in your business career. We're going to talk about the bullwhip effect. And you'll hear that almost every week in this class, the bullwhip effect. So this is a summary of what we're going to go over. As I said, I'm going to take it a little bit light on the origins of supply chain management because I don't really think that it's anything that's going to affect you in the way that you do your job or help you with being successful in the field. So what's a supply chain? We're going to talk a little bit. You're going to watch a video this week, if you haven't already, from Arizona State University. It's very short. It's about 5 minutes, and it's going to tell you about what a supply chain is. But a supply chain is basically the flow of products and services from a manner in which they're not saleable. So if someone hands you a piston, that doesn't give you a car to drive. Someone hands you a tablespoon of peanut butter, that's not a sandwich. It's raw materials and how it gets all the way to the consumer. It's connected by transportation and logistics, and hopefully it's vertically integrated. So we're going to talk about that. So now this is the time when you want to really pay attention. This slide, number 5, is a 20-point question on the test. It's the very first 10 questions on the test. You're going to get this diagram, and I'm going to ask you to label it. So I want to talk through, at the top, you see that product and service flow in the orange, and that's going to the right. So we're trying to get products from where they're manufactured or the services from where they're delivered to the consumer. So think about a service as maybe you're going to go and get your hair cut at the barbershop or the hair salon, whereas a product is something that you buy that you can hold in your hand. And we'll do a whole chapter on how services and products are different. Think about also if you buy a new phone, a lot of times they'll take your old phone back and give you a little bit of credit for it. The reason that they do that is they can recycle those. Sometimes you're getting a return because something doesn't fit or it's defective, something like that. But we have to have a channel to get things back from the consumer that paid for the product back, either recycled or returned. So that's what those two on the top are. If you go all the way to the bottom, that light blue one is how we're going to integrate all this information to our suppliers. If you think about today when you buy something from Amazon and it tells you it'll be here tomorrow, then it sends you an email with a tracking number or a text with a tracking number. Often it can tell you on text your package is 5 stops away, 10 stops away, something like that. That kind of information is integrated across the supply chain. So they know that UPS or FedEx or the post office has your package. They know where it is, and they're scanning it the whole way with some technology that we'll talk about later in the class. So if we go back over here, you can see raw material suppliers. Those are the people that make the components that we need to manufacture the product. So if you think about a car, a tire would be a raw material manufacturer. And if you think about the whole assembly of the tire on the axle with the hubcap and the lug nuts and all that, that would be an intermediate component. I can't do anything with an axle and 2 tires on it, but if I assemble it into a car, I can make it into a car. Transportation and storage activities in the center there, that's how we get things from where they're manufactured to where they need to have the final manufacturing done and then out to our wholesalers or our distributors. So think about a wholesaler or a distributor. You own a convenience store. You're not buying Coke from the same place that Walmart or Costco is buying Coke. They buy directly from Coca-Cola. You probably buy from a distributor because you're buying in a much smaller quantity, and it's easier for you to be able to get just a small quantity that you need. And then the retailer would be the actual convenience store, the Costco, could be Amazon, could be online, could be also then the retailer in this instance, if it were a service, could be the person preparing your taxes, the hair salon, something like that. And then you and me are the end product consumers. So if you have Any questions about this? There's a lot of detail on this in the book, but make sure you understand this. This is the basis of this entire course, and as I said, it's a 20-point question on your first test. This is a couple of definitions of supply chain management. You're all in college, so I'll let you read them, but you should understand that there's a couple of different standpoints that people look at supply chain from. So in the old days, the old paradigm was kind of everybody's going to just do what we want to do, and short term we need to just make sure that our company is doing well. Now it's a much more integrated approach. People are trying to blur the boundary between supplier, customer, and all of the chain links in between there. So like I said, Amazon's got visibility into UPS, into FedEx, into the United States Postal Service as their product is going out. If you're using another warehousing company, if it's something that you outsource, which we'll talk about outsourcing in a few chapters, but if it's something that you're not doing yourself, you have to have that linked up so that there's visibility across the supply chain. So the importance of the supply chain management is very important to the business. It helps with profitability, which is why every company is in business in the first place, to make money. So if you're successful, this is information that you want to be sharing. What demand do I expect to get from the market? How many am I going to make? What's my production? Hey, I had a problem. I had 10 people call in with coronavirus. I can't make as many as I thought I was going to. I need to make a change to my production schedule. What we're doing with marketing, any new technology that we're using, what our plans are for how we're going to buy from our suppliers, and what our delivery dates are. So people who really start a program of supply chain management, which I would only expect at this point, this would be a new company because most companies are doing this now, but you want to start with your key suppliers, and your key suppliers are going to be the ones, we'll talk about how you tier your suppliers in a couple of chapters, but the key suppliers are going to be the ones that you buy the most items from, or the items that are the most difficult to get. Perhaps you can only get it from one or two suppliers, so you want to make sure you keep a good relationship with those. Or it could be something where you buy $100 worth of parts to manufacture something, and that one supplier makes $30 or $40 worth of those parts. So it could be any of those things. And then they move down. Once that key suppliers are identified, we move down into other suppliers, the customers, the carriers, like I said, FedEx, logistics services, things like that. And then we try to help our key suppliers work with their key suppliers. And we call that the second tier. You're going to hear this term bullwhip almost every class when you listen to these lectures. So I want to tell you what it is. The bullwhip effect is this. It is defined as erratic demand forecasts, which make people have excessive safety stock, which causes production planning problems. It also makes prices go up because it's more expensive if you have more inventory than you actually need. So here's what the bullwhip effect is. If I say to my supplier that I need 10 of something, and they go to their supplier and say, in order to fulfill her order for 10, I need 2. Let's say it's a sandwich. So I need 2 pieces of bread to send her 10 sandwiches. So, but they don't really believe me because I'm not very reliable. I tell them I need 10, and then I call at the end of the week and I cry and scream and say I have to have 12. I underestimated. Don't shut me down. I got to have it. So that supplier gets sick of me not being able to forecast very well. So instead of ordering 20 pieces of bread to make my 10 sandwiches that I've ordered, they order 25. So that when I call at the end of the week and say, I know I'm not supposed to get any more until next week, but I'm out and I need help, they say, no problem. The problem is that goes all the way down the supply chain, and it's kind of like that game you played when you were a child and you whispered in someone's ear and then the next person and the next person. The more that happens, if the person that's buying the flour to make the bread to sell the 20 pieces to the person that's selling them to make my 10 sandwiches buys extra flour because they're getting a bad forecast, and then that person, on and on and on, it just goes. And the reason it's called the bullwhip effect is if you think about a bullwhip going, it goes down and then it goes way up. It's exactly what this is about. It totally messes up the forecast, and it makes way more inventory be in the supply chain channel than needs to be because people are scared and they don't trust the forecast. It's very expensive because if you think about that person orders 25 pieces of bread to make my supposed order that they really only need 24. If I don't order those extra sandwiches, they have to throw that bread away. Well, they know that they're going to have to throw that bread away, and so they raise my price. And if they don't have to throw it away, then they make extra money. But if they do, then they've they've covered their costs because they've asked me to pay more. So it's very expensive for the supply chain. I'm not going to focus a lot here. You can look through this in the book. You should have read chapter 1, hopefully already. But there are several slides here just talking a little bit about how things have gotten. I do want to let you know, I'm going to try as much as I can in this class to give you the acronyms that you need to know and to make sure you know how to pronounce them. One of the things that I always say in my exports class, which has a lot of acronyms, is that you would never tell someone on April 15th that you're filing your 1040. You would tell someone that you're filing your 1040 because that's what people call it. So I want to make sure you know how to pronounce these things, how to say them properly so that you're not saying something and sounding like you're not knowing what you're talking about. So the foundations of supply chain generally are considered plan, source, make, deliver. So let's talk that through. Plan, we're going to plan what we're going to do. Source, we're going to find the parts or the people to do it, or both, machinery, whatever it takes. Make, we're going to do it. And then deliver is send it. So this is supply, operations, logistics, and integration. This is the 4 things you need to do. You need to make sure you have good suppliers. You need to make sure you know how to manage your demand and that you have systems in place for quality. We're going to talk about logistics, about getting things to where they need to go, how we can use the network, how we can use systems. And then we're going to talk about integration and how the last 2 chapters talk about integration and how it really, really helps to have that information visible all the way across the supply chain. So under supply, which if you notice that was that top one in chapters 2 through 4, we're going to talk about supplier management, strategic partnerships, and ethics and sustainability. This book has a lot about sustainability and green and conserving the environment and things like that. So we'll talk about that a lot. We're going to talk about operations elements in the next section, which is demand management, MRP, Lean Six Sigma. We're going to talk about all this. And then the last section of the book before we get to that integration section, so this is section 3, is about transportation management, what we'll call CRM, customer relationship management. So customer relationship management is things like Amazon makes a recommendation to you that you would like this book because you ordered that book, or you would like this movie because you ordered that movie on Netflix, things like that. That's customer relationship management. It's also a lot of other things, but that's something that you can kind of relate to. And then network design, and we don't mean a network like a computer network here, we mean a distribution network. We mean where are my parts going to be stocked and how am I going to get them to my customers. And then finally the integration elements, this will be chapter 13 and 14, talking about process integration and performance management. So one of the things that this book talks about a little bit is backshoring, nearshoring, rightshoring. So backshoring means, should we take some of our foreign production, we sent this to Mexico to be built, but maybe the quality is not good, or maybe we're having a hard time getting it because of COVID. Should we bring it back to the United States? That's backshoring. Nearshoring is saying, I'm going to find another person that can work, do this manufacturing work for me, but not all the way around the world. And then rightshoring is making a balance that says, these parts should be manufactured in this location, or this service should be delivered from this location, and this other service should be delivered from here. This is how it makes sense. Things that are causing this that are not on here, besides fuel, labor costs, and people wanting delivery times to be lower, is obviously all the complications around COVID. All right, so supply chain risk we're going to talk about a lot. We've heard a lot about this even on the news lately, about when at the beginning of COVID we couldn't get PPE, and we couldn't get things because there was a huge disruption in the supply chain because of China having no ability to ship for such a long time. So firms, I think, take a very much more serious look at their supply chain risk management than ever before because of the results of COVID. And then the last chapter, or the last slide in this chapter I want to talk to you about a little bit is increasing supply chain visibility. So what that means is that whole Amazon experience of, I place my order, I can see how many are in stock before I place my order, I can make a decision about whether I would rather have it quickly and less expensive, maybe pay $1 more but get it tomorrow, whatever it may be, and then I can see it all the way along the cycle. If you think about too, there are several pizza companies that if you order your pizza, you can look in their app and it'll say your pizza's gone into the oven. Your pizza's out of the oven and it's being cut. Your pizza's been cut, it's in the box, but your pizza's on the way. It's giving you visibility to where is your order and how long is it going to be till you get it. It's a psychological thing to a certain extent at the consumer level because you're not getting it 1 second faster than you would have gotten it anyway, but you know where it is, so you feel like you have a little bit of control. That's one issue. In the business world, that visibility is so important because it's letting every company that you deal with, both the customers and your suppliers, have visibility into what you're doing so that everybody's singing from the same sheet of music. Everyone's working together, everyone's on the same page. So that is a huge advantage to running an efficient and optimized supply chain. So we're going to finish up chapter 1 here. You can close this video and we're going to open up the video and talk about chapter 2.